Imagine this, a man so wealthy, so powerful, that he could buy entire armies with a flick of his hand. A man who believed that true riches meant being able to fund a Roman legion out of your own pocket. But in the end, this same man would find molten gold, his life's obsession forced down his throat by his enemies. His story is not just one of wealth and ambition, but of betrayal, hubris, and one of the most humiliating deaths in Roman history. This is the rise and brutal fall of Marcus Licinius Crassus, the richest man in Rome. Marcus Licinius Crassus was born around 115 BC into the prestigious Licinius family. His name would become synonymous with unimaginable wealth, ruthless ambition, and one of the most infamous defeats Rome ever suffered. He was a soldier, a politician, a ruthless businessman, and a man whose greed became legendary. Crassus stood shoulder to shoulder with Julius Caesar and Pompey the Great, forming the first Triumvirate, one of the most powerful political alliances in Roman history. Yet, unlike his partners, he lacked the glory of great military conquests. And it was this hunger for recognition, for battlefield immortality, that led him to a desert in the east and into the waiting hands of the Parthians. But before we reach that tragic end, we must journey back to his beginnings, his wealth, his rise, and the choices that would shape his destiny. Crassus was born into privilege, but his youth was scarred by blood and chaos. His father, Publius Licinius Crassus, was a respected senator. Yet civil war tore Rome apart, and Crassus lost much of his family to the violence of Gaius Marius and his faction. His brother was killed, his father executed. Forced into exile in Hispania, the young Crassus survived by raising a small band of followers and convincing cities to finance his survival. He tasted loss, he tasted fear, but he also learned resilience and the power of wealth as a weapon. When he returned to Rome, he allied himself with Lucius Cornelius Sulla during Sulla's bloody civil war. Crassus fought bravely at the decisive Battle of the Colline Gate, where he crushed his enemies with ruthless precision. Sulla triumphed, and Crassus emerged not just alive, but in position to rebuild his fortune. If Crassus was known for anything, it was money. He did not simply want to be rich, he wanted to be the richest. After Sulla's victory, Rome was filled with opportunities. Properties of the condemned were confiscated, and Crassus swooped in like a vulture, buying estates for pennies on the denarius. But he didn't stop there. Crassus mastered real estate speculation. Fires and collapses were common in Rome, and he built a private fire brigade of 500 slaves. When flames erupted, Crassus would appear, offering to buy the endangered building at a humiliatingly low price. If the owner agreed, his men would douse the flames. If not, he would let it burn to ash, then buy the ruins. Plutarch once remarked that public calamities were his principal source of revenue. He expanded further, owning silver mines, engaging in slave trading, and training his slaves as artisans to resell at high prices. His fortune grew to a level almost beyond comprehension. By modern standards, his wealth would rival the richest billionaires of today. And yet, when asked how much money is enough, Crassus answered, "A man is only truly rich if he can support a legion at his own expense." But wealth was not enough. Crassus craved glory. His chance came with the great slave revolt of 73 BC, the rebellion led by Spartacus. Rome had suffered humiliation after humiliation at the hands of Spartacus's gladiator army. The Senate turned to Crassus in desperation. He restored discipline with brutal methods. When one of his legions faltered, he revived the ancient punishment of decimation, executing 1 in 10 soldiers to terrify the rest into obedience. Crassus then trapped Spartacus in southern Italy, cutting him off from escape. In 71 BC, he crushed the rebellion in a final bloody confrontation. Spartacus fell in battle, and Crassus ordered 6,000 survivors crucified along the Appian Way. A gruesome line of crosses stretching miles, a warning to any who would dare challenge Rome. And yet Pompey the Great, arriving late from Spain, claimed some of the credit. Crassus had won, but glory slipped from his hands. By 60 BC, Crassus entered into a political alliance with Pompey and a young Julius Caesar. Together they formed the first Triumvirate, an unofficial pact that gave them near total control of Roman politics. Crassus brought money, Caesar brought rising popularity and cunning, Pompey brought military prestige. It was a marriage of convenience, not friendship. Crassus bankrolled Caesar's campaigns, ensuring his rise. But he remained painfully aware that beside Pompey's eastern conquests and Caesar's wars in Gaul, he seemed the lesser man, a banker among warriors. And that was something Crassus could not accept. At 60, Crassus sought one last chance at glory. The Parthian Empire lay to the east, wealthy and powerful. Conquering it would not only make him richer, but immortal in history. Against the Senate's will, he secured the governorship of Syria. He raised 7 legions, around 40,000 men, plus cavalry. His beloved son, Publius, a decorated officer who had fought under Caesar, joined him. But from the start, signs of doom surrounded him. Bad omens were reported, but he ignored them. The Armenian king offered 40,000 troops and a safer route through the mountains, but Crassus refused. Instead, he trusted a local guide, Ariamnes, who was in truth a Parthian agent. Ariamnes led him deep into the desert, into the jaws of a trap laid by the brilliant Parthian general Surena. In 53 BC, near Carrhae, Crassus met his fate. His army, exhausted and thirsty, faced the Parthians. He arranged his legions into a hollow square, a defensive but immobile formation. Against Parthian cavalry, it was a disaster. Wave after wave of horse archers rained arrows onto the Romans, supplied endlessly by camel trains. The legionaries, trained for close combat, could do nothing. Their shields became pincushions. Desperate, Crassus's son Publius led a cavalry charge. Surena feigned retreat, drawing him in. The trap closed, and Publius was killed. His head was severed, mounted on a spear, and paraded before the Romans. When Crassus saw his son's head, his spirit broke. His army's morale collapsed. The next day, Crassus attempted peace talks with Surena, but during the tense meeting, violence erupted. Crassus was seized and killed in the chaos. But his enemies were not finished. According to legend, the Parthians mocked his insatiable greed by pouring molten gold down his throat. Whether done alive or after his death, the message was clear. His life's obsession became his instrument of destruction. His head and hand were sent to the Parthian king, who used it as a stage prop in a performance of Euripides' The Bacchae, mocking Rome's fallen tycoon before a laughing audience. The richest man in Rome had died not with glory, but with shame. Crassus's death shattered the first triumvirate. Without him as a balancing force, Caesar and Pompey turned on each other, plunging Rome into civil war. His life remains a warning etched into history. He was brilliant, cunning, and relentless. Yet his greed and lust for glory led him to gamble everything and lose. He had crucified Spartacus's men to prove his power. He had manipulated Rome's misfortunes to build his fortune. And yet, in the deserts of Parthia, he learned the final lesson. No amount of gold can save a man from his fate. From the life of Marcus Licinius Crassus, we draw lessons that echo across time. Wealth without wisdom is ruin. Crassus had more money than any man in Rome, but his greed blinded him to caution. Pride can destroy empires. His hunger to rival Caesar and Pompey drove him into a reckless war. Legacy is greater than fortune. Though he was the richest Roman, he is remembered not for his wealth, but for his humiliation. Marcus Licinius Crassus rose higher than nearly any man in Rome, but he fell harder than all. His tale is not just history, but a timeless reminder of the dangers of unchecked ambition. In the end, gold did not make him eternal. It made him a cautionary tale.